All right, welcome back, everyone, and welcome to part two of the travel planning series that we're doing for the library. Again, my name is Christian Galloway, and this session we'll be talking about how to plan a trip, ideas on where to go, things to remember. We'll also talk about hotels and just some other good pointers for when you're planning. So let's get into it. First of all, let me say that we've been all around the world, done some really amazing things, and we've learned a lot of tips along the way. So that's what we're doing, is just trying to pass these along. Things that sometimes people think, oh man, I would never want to plan a trip like that. Well, it's probably easier than you think. Um, Also, let me just say right off the top of my head, not everyone is into planning trips halfway across the world. Maybe that's not your thing. Everybody vacations differently, and sometimes people want to go to Florida. Sometimes people want to go to California or whatever. We throw no stones. We don't judge anybody by whatever type of vacation they want to take. I think all travel is good and benefits people in different ways. What we're doing is just trying to make it simpler for people that are trying to plan trips, and hopefully it makes it easier and you get more relaxation out of your time off. Try something new. Okay, what we're talking about here is that people tend to go where they have gone before. Most people are heavily influenced by past vacations, and we could probably say past generations of vacations. If you think about it, leisure travel for uh, the middle class of America is less than 100 years old. Before the early 1940s, travel was really reserved for just a small fraction of the population that could afford it. So in the 1950s, there was this introduction of the interstate highway system, and what that provided was an easily accessible way for families to vacation, because it would be easy to just throw the kids in a station wagon, hit an interstate, and within a day or two, you would be within range of something that was worth seeing, whether that be a beach or a national park or whatever. Um, and so what that happened, what happened from there is maybe your grandparents used to take you to a certain place and they fell in love with it. So every year they'd go. And now your parents have nostalgic feelings about a certain destination. And so every year they'd take you. And now you're going to the same vacation. Like we said, there's nothing wrong with that. It's where you feel comfortable. It's convenient. You know what you're going to get. But the point is, travel to a new destination has never been easier in the history of travel. You have low fares to multiple destinations. You have lodging that's very affordable, and you have tools that help you plan. So the first question when you're planning travel to somewhere, is where do you want to go? And that seems pretty obvious, but there's three things that we consider. One, affordability. Um, and the point here is many places are cheaper than you think. Two, destination. And what is my comfort zone? Where do I want to be on that spectrum? And three, your environment. Wherever you end up going, you want to be safe, be alert, be prepared, and know what you're doing. All right, affordability and destination. So the first question we talk about affordability is, where do you want to go? And notice that the question isn't, where do you think you can afford to go? Oftentimes people think that they won't be able to afford where they really want to go, so they kind of settle on a secondary vacation. For example, you might think, oh, I could never afford to go to Paris, but then you turn around and go on a Disney vacation that costs multiple thousands of dollars. When in reality, if you're willing to budget and do certain things, there's no reason why you couldn't go to Europe or Paris. So, don't limit yourself based on just what your thoughts are on a place. Um, as far as the destination goes, the questions you should ask yourself is, what is my comfort zone? And are you willing to push the edge of that comfort zone, or do you want to stay very firmly inside that comfort zone? Um, if you melt at the first sign of heat and humidity, um, maybe Southeast Asia is not for you. If you're somebody who needs a very clean environment, there's places where uh, they don't have European toilets, and there's just a hole in the ground. Is that something that is a deal breaker for you? You need to realize what you're getting into and be aware of it, because if you kind of push it off until you get there and then it's not at all what you expect, that's when you can really kind of panic and be like, oh my goodness, what did I get myself into? The third question you should ask is, what do you want from your vacation? Is it education, rest and relaxation, sightseeing, sports, etc.? Okay, environment. When we're talking about environment, the things you should consider is the timing. Uh, am I going to go during the summer, the winter? When is the most comfortable season? And is it something that I am going to be looking forward to and comfortable in? The exchange rate. How much is the dollar going to be worth in whatever destination that I'm going to be there? The language barrier. Am I going to attempt to make an effort to learn some of the language that I'm of the country that I'm going to, or am I just going to hope that everybody speaks English? Also, some parts of the world you'd want to brush up on social customs and diet, so that when you get there you're not going to make some incredibly obvious faux pas, or something more serious in whatever customs that they have. The State Department websites listed there is a very good resource in getting an idea of what is going on in a country. Um, the first one listed there is just the regular website, where you can type in the country and it'll tell you where the consulate is, what the current situation is as far as crime or potential terrorism or whatnot. Just gives a good overview. The map, travelmaps.state.gov, that's what's listed over to the side, and it's basically a color coded map that shows you what countries are, what most people would consider, quote unquote dangerous. Currently, with COVID, they're all considered pretty dangerous because of the threat of spreading COVID. But in during normal times, the colors kind of die down to mostly safe, and then certain patches of the world that are considered dangerous. But it's a good tool for pre-planning. There's a couple of travel truths that we put down there too. One, you will not see everything. So don't try, or you will make yourself sick of travel, or the people around you sick of travel. Pick wisely and don't make your vacation a marathon. Try to do several things and do them well, but don't try to do everything. Um, Also, with very few exceptions, there is nothing truly spectacular that will be close to the airport. You will have to get out and explore, um, and it will be amazing, but it might take some effort if you really want to see the amazing things. There's a great quote by Anthony Bourdain that I love. It says, "The journey is part of the experience, an expression of the seriousness of one's intent. One doesn't just take the A train to Mecca." So if you're willing to, or if you're wanting to see great, spectacular things, you're going to have to put in a little bit of effort, but it will be well rewarded. So the a theme that I talk to people about whenever I help them plan is to never be surprised. Um, a lot of people are worried about planning a vacation because, what if I get there and it's just nothing like what I imagined and it's just a weird, awkward situation? I'm just not comfortable with it. Well, there's a lot of tools nowadays where people can upload their impressions and help you see, even before you get there, what you're getting into. And I've listed just a few there: TripAdvisor, YouTube, Google Maps. Um, TripAdvisor I really like because when you look on there, travelers are able to put their photos up and show you what they are experiencing. The property, or whatever you're reviewing, um, they want to put their best foot forward and show you the ideal situation. But a traveler, if they've had a bad experience, they're going to tell you exactly what went wrong. And you can see, is it a current review or is it a later review? Do other people have the same problems there? YouTube I like because you can, there are so many um, travel vloggers out there that have gone to literally everywhere you can think of. So if you just go to YouTube and say, touring Chicago, things to do in New York, living in or living and working in Thailand, people have recorded their lives, their vacations, everything, and you can see what something is like. And in a lot of cases they'll tell you what things cost and such like that. Google Maps, I'm going to give you an example of why I like Google Maps so much on the next slide, because it really is like you can go in and tour someplace before you actually go there. So what we're going to do here is do kind of a tutorial on Google Maps. I love maps, and Google Maps, I use it all the time, but especially in travel planning because it really is like you're able to go to a location before you even leave. So if we go ahead and start the tutorial, what you'll do, let's just say that we're going to London, to the Hilton London Metropole, and there, obviously, it'll map it for you. Everybody's probably done that, and you'll see you're right there in the middle of London. But if we go back and really zoom in on it, notice there to the bottom right hand corner, there's a little man symbol. If we pick that up and drag it, the blue highlighted spaces you can drop, and those are all photographed. And if we notice, we're right in the middle of the street. Um, and if we click forward, we can go forward, we can go backwards, we can just explore the area. So if you notice across the street, looks like there might be a shop, but if we scroll forward, yeah, it's a pharmacy of some sort. If we continue on, looks like there might be a cafe. That's the hotel, obviously. And then, just kind of look around the neighborhood. What, is there a bank close by? Let's see. Oh, there's a hair and beauty supply shop. If we go a little farther, we can just kind of see what is in the neighborhood. And it looks like there's a bank there less than a block away. So if you expand this area right here, it'll also show you the entire city is basically scalable, where you can go and look. If we zoom back out, then take the little man, there's little circles that you can drop, and that will show you what it looks like inside the hotel. So you are not the first person wanting to go to whatever destination you're going to. Um, Somebody else has been there, and somebody else is a travel nerd like myself who has posted a picture on Google Maps, and that can help you be more familiar with the area. Do you want to know, is this hotel in a good neighborhood? Well, go and look at the neighborhood. Are there shops near the hotel? Well, you can look on the map, but the map doesn't really tell you what the shops look like. So go to Google Maps and walk around, see where it is. Is your hotel within walking distance to a certain place? You can tell. Um, you're That's why we say you never have to be surprised when you travel somewhere. There are so many resources out there to help you um, know before you go. All right, this is a big one that we get asked a lot about where to get the best airfare. Um, Before we talk about websites that we go to and such, I wanted to talk about where you're going to fly from, a local airport versus a large airport. Um, and the thought here is, what is the actual cost of the ticket, and assign everything a cost. So your local airport, you're going to have short lines, close to home, and inexpensive parking. The parking at Alexandria is only $8.75 per 24-hour period. In New Orleans, to get anywhere close to the terminal, the parking is, I believe, $20 a day. But you have access to low cost carriers, nonstop destinations, and larger aircraft. So, just for comparison, let's imagine a $150 ticket out of Alexandria and a $300 ticket out of Alexandria and a $150 out of New Orleans, which is the next largest airport closer to Alexandria. When we assign everything a cost, think about that parking. You're going to have to spend at least $15 to $50 more in parking. You're going to burn at least a tank of gas, which I just assigned $30, which is probably on the low side. Plus, assign a price to that extra drive time. Assign a price to that frustration factor. The extra drive time, you're going to have about a 7-hour round trip that you might have to do early in the morning, or when you come off that airplane and you're all tired and you're ready to get home, well, you still have a 3.5-hour drive. The frustration factor, you're going to have to stand in a huge line at a bigger airport. Alexandria, there's hardly anybody, maybe one or two people in front of you, and that's a busy day. So it if you assign a price to everything, um, just in a monetary value, you add $80 to that New Orleans. So now you're up to $230 versus a $300 ticket. So is the frustration factor, is it worth $70 to you? It might be in some cases. Now, of course, that's for an individual ticket. If you're buying for an entire family, obviously it takes different things into account. You're going to have to spend more for the tickets, but at the same time, the frustration factor becomes bigger when you have to wrangle a whole family through, security and long lines and such. So, my point is, there's good points to basically every airport. I'm a very big proponent for small airports because they're just so easy to get in and out of. And I can say that Alexandria is extremely well served by Alexandria International Airport. Where can you find the best airfare? Um, as far as third-party vendors like Expedia or Kayak go, I use those to search through flight options. The primary way that I use, though, is Google Flights, which I'll show you a example of in just a minute. Those are good to show you all the options you have. I don't necessarily book through either of those because I like to book through the airline, but you can use those to kind of weed through your options. And then when you found what you want, you can go through the website. Um, Discounts, you can find discounts on those third party websites. Let's say you don't feel like planning the whole vacation yourself. If you pick air and hotel combined, sometimes you can find some pretty good discounts. As far as low cost carriers go, they're able to offer lower fares because, as their name signifies, they have lower costs than other people. Lower cost means they're able to make a profit at a lower price than a regular airline. But generally speaking, most of the airlines match each other's fare, so there's very little difference between them. Okay, Google Flights is one of my favorite websites to use when I'm looking for flights and such. So we're going to do a little tutorial. You can just type Google Flights in and go there. Alexandria, we're not going to do Egypt. We're going to do Alexandria, Louisiana to Seattle. And we'll just pick some random dates. If you notice, as soon as I put a date in, it gives me the lowest fare on any date in that calendar month, which is pretty amazing. And then you pick a date and a return date. And here I'm getting the airfare, how long it's taking, how many stops, and the price. Now notice the price does not include a carry-on bag. All of these flights on major airlines, you're going to have to pay for a checked bag, but United one does not include carry-on. So let's select the American Airlines. There gives us flight details, layover time. If you notice down there, the price is currently typical for that flight. It's not a great deal, it's not a bad deal, it's just right in the middle of the road. So let's go ahead and select that American flight. And now the return flight. I'm not a morning person, so let's do the 1:47 p.m. And there it'll tell you what's included with my fare, or if I wanted to upgrade to first. My fare includes a check bag and a first bag fee of $60. And then if I did click select, it would take me to American Airlines website to book. Now, if you're a travel nerd like me and want to daydream about all the travel that you're not doing, you can just type in something obscure like Europe. And for the dates you selected, it will pop up the cheapest fare to everywhere in Europe. And if you scroll in, you can kind of get to some of the more obscure places. And there we see London, Edinburgh, Glasgow. Let's just type in North America for domestic flights. And there again, all the flights for the dates that we selected just pop up automatically. So let's click different dates. And again, the lowest fares to everywhere from Alexandria. Got some good fares to Florida down in the bottom right, Orlando and Miami. Also Anchorage, very good fare out of Alexandria. So this is more for even before pre-planning, I would say. This is kind of just a daydream fare, but if you just want to see what fares are like, or if you think fares are high to a certain destination, well, is it that high to other places? That'll give you a good idea. So what you'll find when you're booking flights is the important thing is not necessarily what airline you book on, but when you book. Remember I said that most airlines match each other's fares to be competitive, so they're all going to be pretty much around the same fare if you book within the right window. That being said, the cheapest fares will be found between 3 months and 30 days prior to departure. Inside of 3 weeks, the price increases, and the most expensive time to buy a flight is right before the plane leaves. It's a day or two prior. Don't second guess yourselves. Find a fare that works for you and book it. Some people say, "Oh, well, if I wait just a little bit longer, I might get a better fare." Well, it might, but it's just as equally likely that the fare would go up. So find the Goldilocks fare, the not too expensive, but just right for your budget. And when you find it, book it. Um, the best selection for sale fares are available on Tuesday afternoon. That's kind of internet wisdom. I haven't necessarily seen that, but that's what all the professionals tell you. And the cheapest days to fly are on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Saturday. The most expensive days to fly are Friday through Sunday, people trying to either start or end of a weekend period. Um, the highest priced flights are almost always in summer and holiday. People traveling with their family on the summers. The airlines are going to be able to pack planes during the summer for whatever prices they do. They don't necessarily have to put them on sale. Same thing for holidays such as like Christmas. They know that people are going to be traveling those times a year, so they don't really need to incentivize it with sales. However, off time periods like September and October, the kids have gone back into school. There's not a lot of people or families traveling during that time. And so those kind of off peak periods are really when you find the best airfares. Another couple of good websites that I use is the Fair Deal or Fair Deal Alert. Um, One thing that I do, I don't actually tweet, but I do have a Twitter account just so that I could subscribe to um, those two websites, their Twitter pages, because they'll actually tweet out good deals during the day, and you could just kind of browse them throughout your day-to-day activities. Especially if you know that you're specifically going there, it might be good to check, or if you're going to a certain place, it might be good to check their website every day just to see if there's any fares published. Um, if you do go to those websites, be ready to ignore a lot of deals you aren't interested in, but you might be able to find ones that you are interested in. Again, don't second guess yourselves. When you find a fare that works for you, lock it in. And the fourth piece of advice is something that I didn't know until maybe a year ago or something. Airlines will give you 24 hours to cancel the tickets after you book with no charge. So book first and ask questions later. If you find a good deal, book it. And if it turns out that you can't make the other plans work, you can cancel them at no charge. This is great, especially if you're doing a booking with a lot of people, and you see a good fare, and you need to go and talk to everybody else and see if the plans will work for everybody, if they can get the time off. Just go ahead and book the tickets, and then talk to everybody and see if they can make it work. If not, cancel it and you're out nothing. As far as seats go, if given the opportunity, go ahead and pick your own seat. All seats are not created equal. Some of them are much better than some other ones that cost exactly the same. So what I always do is check seatguru.com, and if you notice to the right, this is kind of a diagram that'll tell you for a certain flight, and they categorize a good, bad, or just kind of a okay seat. Um, and the bad ones might be categorized as, very close to the lavatory. And so you're going to get a lot of traffic and noise when you're trying to sleep. Maybe the seat doesn't recline because of it's next to the bulkhead, or, something like that. Um, or maybe you really like a window. Some seats may not have a window, and so you can just hover over the seats, and it'll tell you, does it have a power outlet? Does it have a window? Um, what other people have said about it. As far as where to stay goes, there's two main choices: hotels and Airbnbs. Just to kind of break it down for you, the advantages to Airbnb are that they're mostly in residential areas, so it kind of gives you the more authentic local feel. Some of them have kitchens and washing machines, which can save you money on eating out or laundry. Um, you also avoid the crowds of a hotel. Um, you don't have to, fight for an elevator or whatnot. If you're traveling in a group, it's very easy to split the cost um, between people. And some of the stays that you can stay at are truly unique. These are some pictures of places that we've stayed. One of them was an Airbnb that was at a um, sanctuary for kangaroos that had been orphaned, and there were just dozens of kangaroos right out your front door. You can't get that in a hotel, or maybe the Riyadh in Morocco that we stayed in. Those are experiences that you just can't find in hotels. Now, um, when we talk about hotels, uh, obviously housekeeping, every day that your room's going to be came in and made. um, Free breakfast at some hotels. You'll get a swimming pool or a gym if that's important to you. And probably the biggest influencer of booking hotels, that in my mind, is what you're going to get. um, you're able to kind of do the looking around at like TripAdvisor and other places. You'll have to go on, you can also go on what you've experienced in the past. And typically, if you stay at a Marriott or a Hilton in Alexandria, Louisiana, it's going to be the same product as if you go to Bangkok, Thailand, and stay there. Also, if you're a frequent traveler, you get upgrades and executive lounge access. But to be completely honest, upgrades at hotels are, um, not super fancy or exciting. Here are some tips that we have for looking for a hotel. The first one I would say is join the hotel's frequent traveler program before booking. Sometimes hotels will give better rates to people that are already enrolled in their frequent traveler program. I know that's true for Hilton and also some other hotels. Um, when you're looking at the total rate for the room, be sure that there's not a resort fee included in the rate. Sometimes those fees can be per day and really add up. The same is true for parking rates. If you click where it says go to the hotel's website and then scroll to where it says parking or transportation, it should have whether parking is complimentary or you have to pay for it. Those two fees together can really add up and might make it a lot more expensive than you think it would be just without them. Um, Also, airport hotels tend to be a lot cheaper, but you're going to spend a lot more time and money to get to the attraction. A good example would be New York hotels. Generally, hotels around LaGuardia or JFK or even Newark are going to be much less expensive. However, you're going to have a lengthy train ride or a pretty expensive taxi ride to get into town where most of the stuff is that you're going to be wanting to do. So you may end up spending a lot more time or a lot more money than you'd like to, and it might be worth it to get a closer in hotel. Read current reviews, and I put it in all caps because like I said before, people are going, people like TripAdvisor, for example, people are going to tell you the truth of what happened in their stay, and they'll tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly. When you read them, make sure that they're a current review, but that's probably the best way to figure out if a hotel is going to be clean, if it's going to be convenient to other things that you want to do, if the staff were, you know, nice and treated people well. Um, Also, high-end hotels, sometimes people think, "Oh, I'd really love to stay at a high-end hotel." But in many cases, they're going to have many, many more fees. You're going to have to pay to park. You're going to have to pay for breakfast. Breakfast won't be included for free. And they just kind of stack on a lot of fees because the people that stay at high-end resorts and hotels can afford to pay them. An economy hotel might provide complimentary parking, might give free breakfast and provide other things for free. So there's nothing against splurging on a high-end hotel, but just understand that there might be more fees involved than just the price that you see. Also, one of the biggest things that we do to save money and to use our budget wisely when we travel is we use points for the hotel to increase our travel budget. When you use points for the hotel, then that money that you were going to use for the um, hotel, you can then use for other cool things on your trip. And hotel points are some of the easiest points to accrue. So um, you'll really have them very quickly, and you can use that money for other things. All right, a couple of final tips here about money and safety. Some local banks can exchange foreign money before you leave. I know we bank with Chase, and they're able to do it on a next day basis, which is super convenient. Once you get to the country you're going to, you don't have to stand in line and wait for um, getting your dollars exchanged. Um, you also want to make sure that your credit card has no foreign transaction fee if you're traveling internationally. As far as safety goes, be alert. If something feels wrong, don't ignore your instinct. And also, there's a website listed there for the State Department STEP worldwide or website. It helps the U.S. Embassy contact you in the case of some kind of emergency, whether it be a natural disaster, civil unrest, or a family emergency. It lets the consulate, wherever you're going, know where you'll be. And I know some people think, oh, this is Big Brother. But if you are in a situation in a foreign country, it might be a good idea to have the consulate's help. All right. Final couple of points to emphasize. Uh, Go somewhere different. Instead of following the crowds to busy destinations, look outside the box. And the one of the good examples that we give here is Budapest versus Paris. Before World War II, Budapest rivaled Paris as a center for art and commerce. And today, its architecture is stunning. It has, the Art Nouveau, Gothic Revival, and modern themes. It is a modern city that, in my mind, I've been to both cities. It rivals Paris, but it's much cheaper. They are not on the euro. They have their own um, currency, which is cheaper than the euro. Um, the people were nicer. The scenery was just as amazing, and we had an amazing time. So maybe look for places that you wouldn't necessarily think. Whenever I first saw Budapest, I was like, where in the world is Budapest? And then finally, do something different. Once you get there, don't just do the normal touristy things, and try the local dishes. Try a cooking class, or do something that is a little out of your comfort zone. Um, and you will have a great time doing it, I guarantee. Thank you for hanging out with us and talking about travel. I've listed some of the websites there that we've talked about. And of course, below is also some referral websites, no obligation. But if you'd like to help us travel and also find some good deals for yourself by getting into points, the referral links are there. On the left, my information, my email address. Yes, we do help people plan um, and even plan vacations for them for a very nominal fee. So contact us if you have any questions or if you'd be interested in that. My blog there, my mom's getting pretty excited about the amount of traffic that we've generated. She's not the only one looking at it anymore. We also have Instagram and Facebook. So thank you guys again for logging in, and happy travels.